Have you ever been in a situation where everything you built with someone suddenly felt meaningless? That's exactly what happened to me. I thought we were a team, building a life together, but then she told me, "My happiness comes first." It hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't want to believe it, but her actions left no doubt. So I made a choice. I gave her a reality check she wasn't expecting. But before we begin, be sure to subscribe. We are getting close to 200 subscribers, and your support means everything. Now let's get started. My wife Angela and I have been married for 8 years. We've always had what I thought was a pleasant and happy life. We have a wonderful 6-year-old daughter named Lily, whom I adore above all else. I worked long hours as an engineer to provide for our luxurious lifestyle. At the same time, she stayed at home to manage the household and care for Lily. She has always maintained that she was content with her current position. Angela began expressing dissatisfaction around a year ago. She felt that her entire existence revolved around being a wife and mother and desired more. I understood what she meant, but I found it difficult to relate. My life revolves around being a father and a husband, but I've seen it as fulfilling. I attempted to empathize with her, but maybe she felt that way because she didn't leave the house much. I had a career, and while it was primarily to support my family, it also gave me a feeling of purpose. So, we talked about what she could do to bring greater fulfillment. We eventually decided she should try to get out of the house more while Lily was at school. She could enroll in a class or take up a pastime. After much deliberation, she decided on pottery classes, and we signed her up for one the same week. I assumed it would be the end of her fulfillment concerns, and for a while it was. She started producing small pots, cups, and dishes, and the house began to fill up with them. They weren't fantastic initially and never improved, but I didn't mind. It wasn't like she wanted to sell them or something. For a while, her mood appeared to be improving. She felt happier and more energetic. She was more attentive to me and Lily, spending more time with us. She enthusiastically discussed her pottery lesson, telling us about the friends she'd made and the amusing things she'd heard throughout the day. For a while, I was pleased. The pottery lesson was an excellent addition to her. Our entire family benefited. But that's when things began to change. It started when she mentioned Janice, a new buddy she'd met during pottery class. I had no suspicions about Janice at first. I was delighted to learn that my wife had acquired a new acquaintance. They would go out together after class and meet for evening drinks. Janice appeared to be a positive influence on her life. Sure, her new social life meant she was occasionally absent from the house, but I considered it a minor price to pay. Happy wife, happy life, as the saying goes, and we were all a little happier. However, things quickly became out of control. My wife had become pleased due to the shift, but there was a tipping point. Outings and time away from home became too frequent. She became less attentive at home and spent less time with me. I could have lived with that, but she was also becoming less attentive to Lily's needs. Angela was no longer involved in her everyday routine. She'd forget to prepare her lunch for school or miss parent-teacher meetings, which we'd agreed upon early on as her job. I had to pick them up in addition to my other responsibilities at home to compensate. At first, I chalked it up to an adjustment period as we sought to strike a balance with her new social circle. However, other things began to pile up as well. She began arriving home later, sometimes smelling of alcohol, and she would only provide hazy replies when I inquired about her day. She'd dismiss me with excuses like, "We lost track of time," or "Janice had a rough day and needed to talk." The worst part was that she didn't seem to notice or even care how these changes affected Lily. Our daughter, used to doing everything with her mother, began coming to me instead. I enjoyed receiving more attention from my daughter, but it was not worth the cost. It crushed my heart to witness our daughter's little face light up when Angela finally made time for her, only for the delight to vanish as Angela became too distracted or weary to be present genuinely. I tried to explain to Angela how her behavior was harming our family. I approached it softly, expecting to sort things out. I mentioned that I had noticed her drifting away from Lily and me, which affected our daughter. I added that she had also lost interest in our marriage. She responded defensively. She accused me of attempting to control her and limit her personal development. She said she was finally happy, and I couldn't support her. That wasn't fair, and I assured her I had entirely supported her new hobby and friendship. I'd worked long hours so she could stay home and took up the slack when she began traveling more. I reminded her of all this, but she dismissed me with something like, "Providing money isn't everything. You don't know what I need emotionally." She didn't elaborate, instead storming away to clear her thoughts. That was when I began to suspect this wasn't simply about her feeling unfulfilled. Almost 2 weeks following our conversation, Angela expressed an interest in attending a weekend retreat with Janice. She stated it was an opportunity for them to work on their ceramics and recuperate. Almost immediately, my instinct told me something was wrong. Something about the entire situation didn't feel right. I said I was okay with her attending the retreat, but needed to meet Janice first. I told her I was uncomfortable with my wife embarking on a trip with someone I had never met. The request was reasonable. Angela did not see it that way. She started fabricating excuses, stating Janice disliked meeting new people and was shy. That was the moment I realized she was lying to me. I began to suspect that there was no weekend retreat with Janice. I started to question whether Janice existed at all. I'm not the kind to snoop through my wife's phone, but I believed I had probable cause at the time. It is not a breach of trust if the trust has already been broken. So, I investigated. I stopped arguing with her over the retreat. I merely let her pack her belongings and prepare for her vacation. While she was occupied one evening, I took her phone and went through it. She had been highly guarded about her phone previously, but I believe she let her guard down during the rush of packing. Sure enough, there was no retreat with Janice. I could not even find Janice on her phone. Instead, I noticed a chat thread with a contact named B. What I saw crushed my heart. It was evident from the start that she was cheating on me with this guy named Brian. Scrolling up, it appeared that she had started texting him only a few weeks after starting her pottery class. The conversations were flirty from the start, and after a month of texting, it was apparent they had slept together. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. I had been paying for these pottery classes, picking up the slack in our home. I watched her gradually abandon me and our daughter, only for her to have an affair. I was more angry than I had ever been in our 8-year marriage. I stayed calm. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to myself as evidence. Then I entered the room where my wife attempted to pick which bras to bring. When that thought occurred to me, I said, trying to decide which Brian would prefer. She turned around to look at me, who was standing in the doorway with her phone in hand. I wasn't expecting what she said next. She screamed in disbelief that I had accessed her phone and invaded her privacy. I was so taken aback that she carried on for a few seconds before I shut her off. I told her she wasn't going to turn this against me. I told her that her solitude did not give her the right to betray her husband or ignore her daughter. She stood up and screamed that I was making it about myself. She stated that no one in the family cared about her happiness or the sacrifices she made, so she was now taking matters into her own hands. I mentioned all we had done to make her feel more fulfilled, including the changes the family had undergone for her benefit. She threw that back in my face, claiming I had whined and grumbled. That was not true. Regardless of how you looked at it, I was completely supportive and only sought to intervene when she began to ignore Lily. At this time, she started raising her voice, and I told her to keep it down so she wouldn't wake our baby. She lashed out at me, accusing me of once again putting Lily's demands before her own and that her happiness should come first. Lily walked into the room appearing terrified. She questioned why we were shouting at each other. My heart broke, but I dashed over to her, knelt and explained that we were only talking and I'd be in her room shortly to tuck her back in. Angela did not say anything. She watched us silently. Lily nodded and went, but she did not appear comfortable. That only made me extra angrier at Angela. Lily did not deserve this. When I was sure she was no longer in earshot, I returned my attention to Angela and spoke quietly. I questioned if she could see what she was doing to our family and who she was harming. I told her that Lily deserved better than a mother more concerned with slipping away with her lover than being present for her child. Angela began sobbing, stating that she had been so unhappy as a homemaker and was seeking a way to feel alive again. She claimed I had a profession, and she also needed to prioritize her happiness. I explained that my career was not about putting my happiness first, it was about putting my family's needs ahead of mine. I told her she had ruined our lives because she was bored and that nothing would be the same again. She kept crying and proposed various options, including ditching Brian, attending therapy, and quitting her pottery class. However, none of these would be effective solutions, and nothing could remedy this. She is still crying in the bedroom, and I am calling my brother to see if Lily and I may spend the night. My thoughts were still in disorder the following day, but I had gained some clarity. My objective was to keep Lily safe from the mayhem. Lily and I slept over at my brother's house the night before. Angela had refused to allow me to take her out of the house, but I was not going to leave her alone with her mother. I threatened her, telling her that if she tried to stop me, I would inform her parents. I may have been immature, but I was serious about getting my daughter out of that place. The following day, I called Angela and told her we needed to discuss seriously what would happen next. I said I'd bring Lily around so she could see her, and then we'd discuss how to proceed with the separation. Angela attempted to persuade me to reconsider separating. She screamed, begged, and promised to stop communicating with Brian, but I was done. I informed her that trust was the foundation of all marriages, and she had completely ruined it. Lily was delighted to see her mother, which considerably broke my heart. I felt ready to break this family up, but I knew it was Angela's fault. She prioritized her sentiments over the good of the family. After their reunion, I sent Lily to play in her room and informed Angela that I was filing for divorce. She initially dismissed my concerns as exaggerated. She then stated that I was punishing her for attempting to find herself. I informed her that finding yourself did not imply abandoning your family or violating your marriage vows. I would not let her change the story to make herself the victim. Following our conversation, I met with a lawyer to begin the divorce process. He told me that her inattentive behavior and affair helped me build a strong case. He encouraged me to start gathering as much data as possible, including proof of her cheating and any instances of her neglecting Lily. I already had her and Brian's messages, so I went through my phone to look for examples of when she put her happiness ahead of Lily's. Angela used various approaches over the next few weeks to persuade me to reconsider. She went between sincerely apologizing and accusing me of being a domineering, uncaring husband. She even attempted to use Lily as leverage, saying things like, "Don't you want Lily to grow up with both of her parents in the same house?" That only made me angry. I had to remind her that she, not I, had torn the family apart. After the divorce was official, I cleared her out. I won custody of Lily. The argument was that Angela was unsuited to be a mother. It was vicious. I would have felt awful for her if I still loved her. Instead, I was happy. The worse they made her sound, the greater my chances of gaining custody. She was granted visitation rights 3 days a week. She attempted to argue for more, but the judge sided with me based on the evidence of neglect in the affair. After the dust settled, I had to face the arduous task of rebuilding my life with a confused 6-year-old who didn't comprehend why Mom and Dad no longer lived together. I needed to ensure she realized that none of this was her fault, especially when she asked questions like, "Why doesn't Mommy live here anymore?" Or, "Do you and Mommy still love one another?" I reminded her that while adults make errors that hurt others, that didn't mean she wasn't loved. Angela, of course, did not take the divorce well. She began sharing strange statements on social media about being betrayed and gaslit. She attempted to portray herself as a victim and elicit pity from the responses to her posts. It did not seem to be working. I'd already informed her parents, my family, and our friends about what had happened. Everyone was as startled as I was. Although disappointed, several of our family and friends assured me I was doing the right thing for Lily. Angela had little money left over. I kept the house, my car, and more than half our savings. The judge granted her a little alimony payment, but it was insignificant, almost a joke. I was responsible for our child, and the affair put Angela in a difficult position to negotiate. We shared part of the assets, and she received a quantity of money, but it wasn't significant in the long run. She'd burn up most of it before getting a job. It would be difficult for her to reconstruct her life. Still, I couldn't waste my sympathy on someone who had destroyed our family over an affair. I didn't confront Brian about the affair. I didn't need to. The guy wasn't significant to me, and I didn't want to meet him. If our paths crossed, I can't say I'd be accountable for how I behaved. I did hear that their relationship ended, though. Brian is content to be a supporting character. I considered it romantic that she had destroyed her life for a man who did not want to be with her. After a few months of divorce, we've settled into a routine. I reduced my job hours to spend more time with Lily. Being a single father is not easy, but I would do everything for that young kid. Regardless of what Angela says, Lily's happiness always comes first for me, and I would never complain about it. Angela gets visitation days, and I urge Lily to spend time with her mother, even though I still blame Angela for the grief she has caused us. I attempt to maintain civility for Lily's sake. I recognize she still loves her mother, even though I no longer do. I don't want to do anything that may hinder her emotional development. Looking back, I don't regret how things ended. Angela insisted on her happiness first, so I gave her the desired freedom. It was painful, but I did what I needed to do for my daughter's sake. One day, when she is older, I will tell her what occurred, and I hope she will understand that everything I did was for her. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed the story or found it relatable, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're so close to reaching 200 subs. Your support means the world. Also, feel free to comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.